them. And it's a very serious crime. In fact, it's one of the largest, if not the largest, RICO case in New York's history.
According to the documents, he knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services, including arthroscopic surgeries.
It all kicked off with what was supposed to be a heartwarming, flag-waving moment, a dazzling performance at a presidential inauguration. Carrie Underwood, the golden girl of country music, strutted onto that massive stage during Donald Trump's second swearing-in ceremony. Draped in a sparkling gown that shimmered under the Capitol lights, she opened her mouth and let those powerful notes of America the Beautiful fly into the chilly air. Her voice echoed across a country that was already tense, split down the middle, but desperately yearning for some kind of unity. It should have been a clean, iconic performance, one of those moments people replay for decades, but instead, it lit the match for one of the wildest celebrity firestorms in recent memory. The shift was instant. Before Carrie even hit that final high note, the online streets were boiling over. Twitter turned into a battlefield.
The big inauguration news today is not Pelosi. Yesterday it was Michelle. It's Carrie Underwood. And apparently she's losing all sorts of fan groups. The LGBTQ community in particular, I guess, is very upset about the fact that she's agreed to sing at the inauguration. And she's saying, I love my country. I think this is a great chance to express that love and participate in a moment of unity.
On one side, thousands were hyping her up, calling it brave, beautiful, and goosebump worthy. On the other side, people were furious, like she just made a political statement without saying a single word. It wasn't just criticism, it was rage, loud and public. And that's when the controversy really started spiraling. This wasn't some minor celebrity tiff. The fallout dragged major names into the mix. Sunny Hostin from The View, Joe Rogan, and a lineup of talking heads who all had something to say. What began as a single performance morphed into a cultural battlefield, setting off debates, interviews, and even a high-stakes lawsuit that had Hollywood whispering behind closed doors. This wasn't just about a song anymore, it became the spark for something way bigger, something that shook both the entertainment industry and the public conversation to its core. Within hours, the internet had turned into a war zone. Hashtags like #BoycottCarrie and Trump sympathizer shot straight to the top of the trending list.
Money off of it, so I get why she did it.
I say.
I mean, right? It is country music. I think
I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't do it, even though I can't sing.
You would not sing?
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every...
Spreading like wildfire across every platform. Fans, who once packed arenas screaming Carrie's name at the top of their lungs, suddenly flipped the script. They flooded her comment sections with accusations, calling her a traitor, claiming she'd sided with someone they saw as divisive and dangerous. It wasn't just a few angry profiles stirring the pot either. This thing went mainstream fast. Major media outlets jumped on the story like it was breaking news, pulling out every old talking point about patriotism versus politics. The performance stopped being just music. It became a symbol. A statement, whether Carrie intended it or not.
Strongly about it. I think art is art, and you know, you have a right to perform where you want to perform. I agree with you, Joy. I can't sing a lick, but I certainly, and I have not been asked, but if I were asked, it would be a hard no.
Some people saw her standing on that stage as a betrayal, while others defended her right to simply sing for her country. The tension was thick, and everyone had an opinion. Then, Sunny Hostin stepped in, and that's when the whole situation exploded even more. Live on The View, Sunny didn't sugarcoat a thing. She leaned forward at that iconic table, locked in, and let loose her sharpest critique yet. She called Carrie's decision to perform at Trump's inauguration a personal affront, making it clear she didn't see it as just a patriotic moment. To Sunny, that performance was bigger than a song. It was, in her words, a slap in the face to American values. Her bold stance threw gasoline on an already raging blaze, turning an internet controversy into a full-blown national debate. She didn't just criticize the move, she ripped into it. Sunny Hostin called Carrie's decision disappointing and even hypocritical. She questioned how someone could stand there, claim to love their country, and then perform for someone she boldly referred to as a convicted felon.
Oh, he was scamming insurance companies from taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers. He was performing unnecessary surgeries and then providing fraudulent medical services in exchange.
The second those two words hit the air, it was like setting off a stick of dynamite. Clips of that moment flew across social media within minutes, getting clipped, remixed, and shared everywhere. And let's be real, Sunny's a media pro. She knew exactly how explosive that line was going to be. This wasn't casual commentary anymore. It turned into a direct hit on Carrie's image, a televised character takedown that had everyone talking. And the reaction, instant, intense, and downright fierce. Carrie's fan base, known for being loyal and fiercely protective, rushed to her defense like an army.
So we know Sunny Hostin and her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, are preparing for a legal battle to fight accusations that he committed federal insurance fraud.
They swarmed Sunny's socials, firing off angry comments and calling her biased, uninformed, and accusing her of abusing her platform to push personal views. It wasn't just a few comments, it was a digital flood. The View's own pages on Instagram and Twitter were swamped with demands for Sunny to apologize, or even step down. But Sunny wasn't even flinching. When she returned to the show, she came back with the same energy, doubling down like nothing could shake her. She brushed off the outrage as misguided noise and stood firm, repeating her critique with even more conviction. That bold refusal to backtrack only made the situation hotter.
And that's exactly what Carrie Underwood has taxed herself with. And let's be real, she hasn't come out and given any statement about her politics or how she feels about the 2024 election. So let her be her and let her love this country. We used to be under the umbrella of a shared love for country, but differences in politics. And now it's if you love your country, if you want to represent America, you're a white supremacist MAGA supporter.
Turning what could have been a one-day headline into a cultural flashpoint that refused to die down. When Sunny came back on air, her tone was even sharper, like she'd swapped a scalpel for a blade. She didn't just criticize Carrie anymore. She framed her as someone choosing to stand shoulder to shoulder with a political figure who, in Sunny's eyes, embodied everything wrong with the country. It wasn't just a media take now. It felt personal, direct, and cutting. Sunny wasn't holding anything back, and the tension was palpable. But if Sunny thought she could control the narrative, she seriously underestimated the storm she'd stirred up. Carrie Underwood isn't the type to jump into every controversy, but this time, she wasn't about to let it slide. In a rare and shocking move, even for her diehard fans, Carrie broke her usual silence and dropped a public statement. She defended her performance passionately, explaining that it wasn't political. It was simply her way of honoring her country through music. She stood firm, presenting herself not as a political pawn, but as an artist staying true to her craft. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, things were escalating fast. Within just a few days, Carrie's legal team made a bold move.
Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures.
They filed a defamation lawsuit against Sunny Hostin and several of her co-hosts from The View. The legal filing didn't pull any punches. It accused Sunny of making statements that weren't just opinion. They were false, damaging, and delivered with reckless disregard for the truth. What started as a fiery debate on TV had now turned into a full-blown legal showdown, setting the stage for a media battle unlike anything Hollywood had seen in years. And just like that, this whole thing leveled up.
And they're essentially saying that it's a money grab. And they're also going to countersue for millions of dollars, $5 million plus.
It wasn't a celebrity spat anymore. It was a high-stakes battle with real-world consequences. The moment Carrie's legal team filed that lawsuit, shockwaves ripped through the entertainment industry. Defamation cases between public figures are almost unheard of because celebrities are usually expected to take a certain amount of criticism without flinching. But Carrie's team wasn't playing by the usual script. They argued this wasn't criticism at all. It was a calculated attack on her character, her values, and her career. The legal language was cold, precise, and devastating. The filing laid it all out with receipts. According to her lawyers, Sunny's remarks caused serious damage to Carrie's reputation. They highlighted concrete examples, sponsorship deals that were suddenly canceled, high-profile bookings that mysteriously fell through, and the flood of online hate that followed her every post after the broadcast.
Oh, but it's just, I mean, Pat, you're married. Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to.
It wasn't just public backlash anymore. It had tangible financial and professional consequences. In the courtroom documents, the tone was brutal. The lawsuit painted Sunny as a media figure who crossed a clear line, using her massive platform not for debate, but for public condemnation, without caring about the fallout. And out in the public sphere, the response was instantly divided. Carrie's supporters rallied around her, loud and proud. They called the lawsuit a power move, seeing it as a bold stand against the unchecked influence of big media voices. People were online praising her, saying she was setting a precedent and calling her a role model for anyone who's ever been bullied, misrepresented, or dragged unfairly in the public eye. This wasn't just a legal case anymore, it was turning into a cultural moment with everyone choosing sides. Meanwhile, Sunny's defenders weren't staying quiet. They jumped into the conversation, arguing that she was simply exercising her right to free speech.
That this cohort of queer fans of Underwood have spent more than a decade believing the singer supported them. Now they're in the midst of unraveling what it means to be suddenly shocked into a reality that does not align with their own.
They framed her comments as part of a bigger national debate about politics, patriotism, and who gets to define American values. To them, she hadn't crossed any lines. She just said what plenty of others were already thinking. But while the arguments flew back and forth, one thing became crystal clear. This situation wasn't wrapping up anytime soon, and it definitely wasn't going to be resolved behind closed doors. And just when the drama was already at its peak, Joe Rogan stepped in. The podcast heavyweight, known for his unfiltered takes, couldn't resist putting his stamp on the chaos. On his massively popular show, Rogan went all in on Sunny Hostin and The View. Hill called the show a sensationalist circus.
Emmanuel denied the allegations via a statement through his lawyer, telling Daily Mail that his client, quote, denies each and every allegation and that the lawsuit is a blanket, scattershot, meritless lawsuit.
Accusing it of thriving on outrage rather than meaningful conversation. He didn't hold back on Sunny either. He mocked her comments, questioned her intelligence, and straight up challenged her credibility in front of millions of listeners. It's all hypocrisy, Rogan declared, slamming her for what he saw as performative moral posturing. He claimed she was using Carrie as a convenient target, turning the whole thing into a staged display of moral superiority. If the internet had been burning before, Rogan's words were like tossing a tank of jet fuel on an already raging inferno. And of course, Rogan didn't stop there. He broadened his attack, taking aim at The View as a whole. He described it as a rabies-infested henhouse, accusing the hosts of pushing divisive narratives instead of offering real information or balanced discussions. The rant hit the internet like a bomb. Clips of his takedown went viral almost instantly, racking up millions of views as fans and critics dissected every word.
Of Sunny Hostin on The View, Tom, basically implicating her husband in this type of a scheme.
For some, Rogan became the voice of reason, saying out loud what others in the industry were too scared to touch. For others, Rogan was just another loud voice pouring more heat into an already explosive situation. Some saw him as part of the problem, a polarizing figure adding extra noise to an already chaotic storm. But whether people loved him or couldn't stand him, one thing was undeniable. Rogan had officially inserted himself right into the heart of this messy saga, becoming a major player in the unfolding drama. What started as one patriotic performance had now snowballed into a full-scale cultural flashpoint. Carrie Underwood wasn't just a singer anymore, she'd become a symbol in a much bigger fight about free expression, media ethics, and the weight of celebrity influence.
Now, he's just accused, and this accused in a lawsuit after some time of investigation could ultimately become a federal indictment. That's the...
Her song had turned into a statement, whether she intended it or not. Every move she made was now under a magnifying glass, analyzed and debated by millions. Meanwhile, Sunny Hostin had shifted from being one panelist among many to becoming the lightning rod of the entire controversy. Every word she spoke on The View was picked apart like evidence in a courtroom. Supporters hailed her as bold, critics painted her as reckless. Either way, her commentary had become central to the cultural tug-of-war playing out in real time. And then there was Joe Rogan, the wild card, the outsider who jumped into the fray with the megaphone and turned the volume up on everything. His involvement didn't just stir the pot, it raised the stakes for everyone involved, dragging the conversation into new, unpredictable directions. But this wasn't just about three people caught in a media whirlwind. This entire saga tapped into something much deeper, something that had been bubbling under America's surface for years. It was about that dangerous intersection where politics and entertainment collide, where the line between critique and defamation gets blurred, and where control of the narrative is up for grabs.
Okay. Oh, no one else had any
So
thoughts?
there we
No
are.
thoughts?
We've had people like Reba McEntire come on
Yes.
and say that, she doesn't want to talk about politics. She just wants to sing, she wants to perform, she wants to make people feel good. And I respect that. And then we've had people like Dolly Parton, and I think you asked her, or
Are you a
maybe,
feminist?
are you a feminist? And she
She
said,
said, I don't think
I
so.
don't think
In a world where everyone has a platform and a voice. As the lawsuits piled up, debates grew louder, and viral moments kept flooding timelines. One thing was becoming clearer by the day. This wasn't just a controversy anymore, it was a reckoning. And just when everyone thought the situation couldn't spiral any further, cracks started to appear inside Sunny Hostin's own world. For all her bold statements and unwavering confidence on camera, whispers began to surface. Quiet at first, but growing louder with each passing week. That the real pressure wasn't only coming from the public, it was coming from inside ABC itself. Behind the polished image of The View, things were reportedly getting tense. Sunny's fiery, unapologetic style had always been her trademark, the thing that made her stand out at the table. But now, that same boldness was starting to feel like a liability. According to insiders, producers were holding closed-door meetings, trying to assess the damage. Her commentary had turned from buzzy television moments into potential legal headaches, and executives were asking tough questions. Was she worth all this noise? And even bigger, could the show itself withstand the growing wave of backlash? The strain was showing in subtle but telling ways. Behind the scenes, tempers were reportedly flaring. Tensions between the team were bubbling just beneath the surface. Rumors began leaking out. Whispers that ABC's top brass was split on what to do with Sunny.
View co-host Sunny Hostin's husband, Emmanuel Hostin, has been accused of federal insurance fraud.
Some saw her as an essential voice they couldn't afford to silence. Others viewed her as a risk, a ticking media bomb threatening the network's polished image. What had started as a televised feud was now sending shockwaves through corporate hallways, leaving everyone wondering how far the fallout would reach. On one hand, Sunny was pure ratings gold. Every time she opened her mouth, the internet lit up like a switchboard. Tweets, clips, debates, you name it. Her presence guaranteed attention. And in TV, attention usually means power. But on the other hand, the backlash wasn't just noise anymore. It was starting to stick. Advertisers, always sensitive to public perception, were reportedly growing uneasy. Behind the scenes, there were whispers that a few ad deals had been quietly pulled because of the growing controversy surrounding her name. The View had always thrived on being a cultural battleground, a place where heated debates grabbed headlines daily. But this time, it hit differently. This wasn't just another political clash, it was about trust. And once that cracks, it's nearly impossible to glue it back together. On camera, Sunny maintained her trademark composure. She doubled down on every statement she'd made about Carrie Underwood, standing firm and refusing to offer even the slightest apology. She projected confidence, making it look like nothing could shake her. But off camera, sources said the pressure was undeniable. Insiders close to the production described a noticeable shift in the atmosphere around Sunny. Her usual easy camaraderie with her co-hosts had turned tense. Alyssa Farrah Griffin, who'd publicly clashed with Sunny before, was reportedly growing frustrated with how these constant controversies kept dominating the show's narrative. Even Whoopi Goldberg, the steady anchor of The View and no stranger to public storms, was allegedly running out of patience, tired of having to navigate blowback after every segment. And then there was Joy Behar. She's never been shy about speaking her mind, but insiders said she was caught in the crossfire.
This is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York. You guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia.
Trying to play peacemaker, while the show's dynamics became more chaotic by the day. What had once been a tense but functional on-air team now looked like a ship caught in rough waters, veering dangerously off course. But the internal drama wasn't the only storm brewing. The lawsuit Carrie Underwood filed, that wasn't fading into the background. It was looming like a thundercloud over everything. Each legal development brought new headlines, adding pressure to a show already struggling to hold its balance in the middle of a media hurricane. The lawsuit wasn't fading. It was gaining momentum fast. Legal analysts across TV networks and social media began breaking down every line of Sunny Hostin's comments and dissecting Carrie Underwood's legal filings like it was the trial of the year. And the consensus that started to form, Sunny might be in serious trouble. Defamation cases are notoriously tough to win, especially when public figures are involved. But Carrie's legal team had built something razor sharp. A case that didn't just challenge Sunny's words, it took aim at the entire culture of The View. Their strategy was bold. The lawsuit framed the show as a platform that thrived on outrage and recklessness, valuing shock over accuracy, and turning personal opinions into viral weapons. They weren't just saying Sunny crossed the line, they were accusing the entire network of building an ecosystem where crossing that line was encouraged. And even though ABC released public statements standing firmly behind Sunny, insiders knew the stakes went way beyond her. If this case made it to trial, Sunny wouldn't be the only one under the microscope. The entire network could end up in the hot seat. And just when the drama seemed to hit its peak, Joe Rogan returned for round 2. His first tirade against Sunny and The View had already gone viral, but this time he came with what he called receipts. On a follow-up episode of his podcast, Rogan raised the stakes. He pulled up old clips of The View, stringing them together into a brutal montage. The clips showed the hosts contradicting their own past positions depending on the political climate, laughing and cozying up to figures they now criticized. One clip in particular blew up. It showed the panel warmly welcoming Donald Trump during his pre-presidency days, joking with him like old friends. Rogan played that clip side by side with their current fiery rhetoric, calling it a masterclass in opportunism. His tone was biting, his delivery calculated, and the internet ate it up. The episode racked up millions of views within hours, adding another explosive layer to a controversy that was already shaking Hollywood, the media, and political circles all at once. The internet did exactly what everyone expected. It exploded. For every person defending Sunny Hostin, there seemed to be 2 more reposting Rogan's clips, calling out what they saw as blatant double standards. Social media feeds filled up with side-by-side videos, sharp commentary threads, and debates that seemed to have no end. Rogan had struck a nerve, and the response was immediate, but he wasn't finished. Rogan shifted his focus and went straight for Sunny. On his show, he started digging into her background, openly questioning her credibility and motives. He accused her of using her platform to settle personal scores, calling her entire approach performative outrage dressed up as moral superiority. It was a direct, calculated hit, not just at her words, but at her character. Now, some people rolled their eyes, dismissing Rogan's attack as just another way to keep himself in the spotlight, but others started to pause and think. Was Sunny's fiery criticism of Carrie Underwood really about patriotism, or was there something more personal simmering underneath? Rogan's comments cracked open a new layer of the controversy, inviting the public to speculate wildly. Within hours, Sunny's name was trending again. Only this time, it was attached to hashtags questioning her integrity, pushing the debate into even murkier territory. What had started as a backlash over a performance had now become a full-on cultural interrogation of Sunny Hostin herself, and the internet was showing no signs of letting it go. Meanwhile, inside ABC, the pressure cooker was about to blow. Executives were reportedly in overdrive, scrambling to contain the fallout as the controversy spun further out of their control. Ratings for The View were still solid for now, but the reputation of the show was starting to take real damage. Under every official post, the comment sections were flooded with angry viewers demanding accountability. Some were calling for Sunny to be suspended or outright fired, while others took it even further, questioning whether The View had simply outlived its purpose in today's cultural landscape. The once celebrated panel of outspoken women was being rebranded online as a toxic environment, more focused on stirring chaos than sparking meaningful conversations. What had once been the show's biggest strength, its unfiltered debates, was now being framed as its downfall. Viewers weren't just disagreeing anymore, they were demanding change, loudly and persistently. And then, the leaks started. Behind closed doors, whispers began circulating that ABC was seriously considering drastic measures to save the show's image. According to insiders, some producers were quietly exploring the possibility of replacing Sunny altogether, a move that would be seismic, considering her blend of legal insight and sharp on-air presence. Replacing her wouldn't be easy, but the pressure to stabilize the brand was growing by the day. Others speculated the network might go even further. Rumors swirled that ABC was discussing major format changes, or in the most extreme scenario, even pulling the plug on The View if the backlash refused to die down. What started as a performance controversy was now threatening to reshape one of daytime TV's most iconic shows from the inside out. The walls were closing in, and every decision carried the weight of the show's future hanging in the balance. The View had survived scandals before, but this one, it felt different. This wasn't just another headline storm, it was a full-on earthquake, threatening to rattle the very foundation of the show. Ratings might have been holding for the moment, but behind the scenes, and in the court of public opinion, the pressure was starting to crush everything in its path. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any messier, Sunny Hostin found herself staring down a new crisis, one that had nothing to do with Carrie Underwood, Joe Rogan, or defamation lawsuits. Her husband, Emmanuel Hostin, had been named in a sweeping federal lawsuit accusing him of insurance fraud. The allegations were no small matter. They claimed he performed unnecessary surgeries and billed insurance companies for treatments that were allegedly exaggerated, or even entirely fabricated. The timing couldn't have been worse. While Sunny publicly stood by her husband, calling the lawsuit a baseless attack on his integrity, the optics were brutal. These fresh accusations poured straight into the media firestorm already surrounding her, handing her critics brand new ammunition to question her credibility and integrity. As lawsuits stacked up, media battles raged on, and internal tensions inside ABC intensified. One chilling question began echoing through the industry. How much more could Sunny, The View, and ABC take? The pressure was now coming from every direction. Legal fights, public backlash, advertiser unease, and even internal fractures that were starting to widen. Would Sunny manage to navigate this hurricane and emerge unscathed? Or was she standing on the edge of a massive fall from grace? And what about The View itself? Could the show withstand this avalanche of scandals? Or was this the beginning of the end for one of daytime TV's most iconic institutions? This is where you come in. What do you think? Is Sunny Hostin being unfairly targeted, or has she finally pushed things too far? Is Carrie Underwood's lawsuit a powerful stand for accountability, or just another celebrity feud blown way out of proportion? And Joe Rogan, is he the truth teller shaking the system, or just a troublemaker stirring chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next, because this story is nowhere near finished. The next chapter is already writing itself, and trust me, it's about to get even wilder.